Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? I am your host, Amelie Starchild, and I'll be with you for the next hour and a half. We're going to talk about it's an esoteric question, and yet it's a hearty, meaningful question. Who am I? I believe we should ask that question not just daily. You really should ask that question through the day. Every day. Who am I? Because the answer keeps being different. And when you add all of the answers together, you come up with the meaning of life. So who am I and why am I doing this? I really am not doing it as a philosophical exercise. I have practical goals in mind. I believe that the woes of our species on this planet primarily come from us not knowing who we are. And for some reason, we need to know who we are. It's not like all the creatures of the forest need to ask this question. They just are who they are. Why are we different? I'm going to explore my theories about why that's true. I also am going to look at us in time. Where are we in time? Where are we in the movie? You know, the movie of mankind, human history, the movie. Where are we there? When we ask the question, who am I? The reference is big. It's source energy. Who am I in reference to source energy? How does my equipment function? What is the medium that I am swimming in? What are the mechanisms by which physical manifestation occurs? How do I learn to tag into the frequencies that can give me the outcomes that I'm really looking for? As opposed to my attention becoming transfixed upon the manifestation, especially if it's some part of the manifestation that I do not like, and I become transfixed in my staring at it, and the next thing you know, that's what I'm manifesting. Because we need to understand how we function. We need to understand us as vibrational beings in a vibrational universe made of energy, frequency, and vibration. If you want to truly understand the world and yourself, you've got to think in terms of frequency and vibration. And that little piece of information brings the human emotions into play, perhaps different than most people ever think of them. You may not understand what your emotions even are. You may think that what your emotions are is a reaction that you're getting from your observation that's telling you whether something you're looking at is good or not. If it feels bad, it must be bad. If it feels good, it must be good. That's not what your emotions are telling you. They are telling you about the thoughts you're having, not necessarily about the condition you're observing. That's different than we've been taught. Excuse me. In this day and age, 300 plus years into the scientific worldview, 350, 400, it all depends on who you think opened up the scientific revolution. And what the scientific revolution actually was mankind beginning to shift his focus from the spirit world and however he had it focused before onto the material world. And the reason that happened, do I want to go into this? It's quick. Yes. What happened was the church back in the 15th century, had a great deal of power and was abusing it pretty badly, forcing their point of view. They weren't just offering the truth benevolently, and people would come to them for wisdom and take it or leave it. No, it was getting crammed down their throats, and if you did not swear that the church's view of cosmology was the one and only truth, they'd burn you at the stake, or torture you in elaborate torture chambers that every castle had. Every big stone building seemed to have their torture chamber in the basement. And their cosmology, they were saying, this is what the heavens look like. This is what it's concentric perfection spheres, and the heavens are reflecting this perfection that you can see in your heart, and it has something to do with Jesus and the Virgin Mary and the virgin birth and the da 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 da, and this is literally the blood and the flesh and all that. And if you did not agree to that and submit to their order, they, like I said, they would burn you at the stake. And so along comes people observing the physical heavens, for instance, like Galileo, who built himself a telescope and then put it upon the planet Jupiter, and was charting what was going on with Jupiter and Jupiter's moons for night after night. He would show where these celestial bodies, how they were moving, and you could tell that they were not circling planet Earth. They're over there circling. The moons are going around Jupiter, and Jupiter appears to be going around the sun. Well, the church didn't like that, didn't like hearing that. It undermined their authority. But the truth is the truth, and it was becoming more and more obvious that everything wasn't rotating around the earth. Now, as long as people were not peering into the heavens, it was easier to fool them. But once we started peering into our physical reality, we started seeing that it wasn't what the church said. And so the way they solved this is there was a schism. There was a great break and it was a break in the psyche of mankind. As we went two different ways, we split. We quit being whole at this moment. We quit trying to be whole. And it was like, well, you over there, science, you can talk about the physical world all you want. We're going to talk about the spiritual world. We're going to talk about love and Jesus and Mary and God and the Holy Ghost and all that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about that. You can talk about the physical world all you want. And so this great rift occurred, and it has not been healed yet. So it is healing. Greg Braden does a wonderful seminar. Actually, him and Bruce Lipton and others have joined in, science and spirituality conferences where they try to bring the science of the understanding of spirit into so all that spirituality is the physics that we didn't understand. It's all part of physics. It's all part of the physical world. Emotions are part of the physical world, and they're an extremely logical part of the physical world. And our emotions are being caused because of the way we are configured, and we're going to talk about that, the way we're configured. Now, I broadcast yesterday, but I did not publish because I wasn't really happy with how it went. I'd been gone for 11 days, and the program was just a little disjointed. I couldn't quite figure out what I was doing with it. And so I just went. It went straight to archive. I did not. I did not post it online. What my intention is today is to pull together a semi-complete. I have a little thesis circle of a few concepts that when you understand them just from a basic general gisty, but they're big concepts, so even understanding them in the general, in the gisty, is a big swallow. It's still a lot to chew up, and you gotta get back in the proper vantage point, step back a few steps, and kind of no resistance can be present, or you can't see this view. You know, my position is that everything is always working out for me, and everything is always working out for all of us. Now, we are part of the equation. We, in our physical forms, are part of the equation that is causing it all to work out. So we have to play our part. It isn't just doing itself. We are involved, but it is always working out to our good. And if we could relax and have the faith and understand how we are configured, what is our configuration? If we understand all that, then we're like, oh, I can have faith in this process. It's all a process. It's all processes. And so if you want to understand, say if your life is not everything you would love it to be, you do not feel as safe as you want to feel, you don't feel as prosperous as you want to feel, and the physical manifestation around you is also not reflecting what you believe to be a safe environment or a safe setup. You feel that you're justified in your not feeling safe, and you're probably right, because what's causing you to not feel safe is probably your orientation. And your orientation can indeed make you less safe. However, I want to clarify something. I'm going to be coming from a really, 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 really big point of view. And the fact of the matter is in the biggest picture, who you really are, all the way down to the ground, all the way down to the plank, you could say. Who you really are is completely safe. You are safe. Death is safe. Everything is safe. Even war is safe. But this is it. This is the thing. There's safe and then there's safe, because I want to be comfortable. I want to be safe in my physical body to a point. I want to feel comfortable in my physical body, knowing how I fit in with the rest of the world. I know a lot of people don't always feel that way. They feel disjointed. They feel out of alignment with the out of step, out of sync, out of flow with the field around them. And we're going to have our little discussion. I'm going to try to help you feel better about yourself. I'm going to tell you some stuff about who you are. And then you get to fill in so much. You get to write your own story. Write your story. Decide what it is. It can be anything. You can tell the story of how people have been taking advantage of you, and how nothing ever works out for you, and you married that guy you thought you loved him, but it wasn't love. You didn't love him. As it turns out, he was just using you. He betrayed you. And then, or you can tell the story of an eager, naive, excited person who's doing their best and trying their hardest, who had some really interesting and kind of funny experiences when they stepped into this and then walked into that. Oh, but now you know better, and you're a hero, and you're trying to or whatever. You can tell the same exact story however you want to do it. And I'm telling you, it's really important how you tell your story. It's extremely important how you tell your story. We're going to be covering some really big concepts, and as I'm still in research and development in this whole Who Am I project. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure exactly what to call it. I have different domains I've already bought. whoamiinthefield.com. I have the whoamiproject.net. I actually have projectwhoami.net. I also have the whoamiproject.com, .net, .org. So I'm not really sure what my show is even called. I'm calling it Who Am I? It might end up someday turning into the Who Am I project. Because like I did say, I have 2 items on my agenda for this. And the reference is source energy. So we're talking about stuff that you talk about in church. We're talking about the G word. When we talk about the S word, we're kind of talking about the G word. Now, the things that I want to talk about do not preclude some of the things you know and understand about your relationship to the Almighty. I don't want to take anything away from you. I don't want to get in between you and anything. I just want to light up a little more information, a little more understanding of its physical structure, so that you will understand who you are and we can all understand who we are. Because I think it's important. It seems to me that it comes right down to every single problem that humanity has comes from us not knowing who we are. If we knew who we are, we would be letting the universe help us solve every issue that we have. We would also come into the every question knowing that any problem can be solved. It's almost like we don't really understand this. So we're looking at the woes of humanity, all of the problems that we have, and it seems like we just keep driving off the cliff. Why can we not understand? The lemmings keep falling into the sea, and it looks like we're going to make it all the way to extinction. We will either change our ways or we will extinct ourselves. 6th mass extinction. I have not heard the news that the tide has turned and we're going the other way. Species are being created at a rapid pace, which could certainly happen at any time. But we've got to do a couple of things first. And the first thing, I believe, we've got to understand who we are so that we are in sync with this magnificent, amazing world that we live in. We live in a universe that is so possible that we need never focus on the impossible. As a matter of fact, we should quit focusing upon the impossible, because the universe is so possible that anything you focus on becomes true. And if you focus on the impossible, it becomes impossible to solve your problems. So we need to stop that. We need to know who we are, and we need to know how it works. We need to know who we are as source energy and how we function as powerful vibrational creators. We need to know that we are, each one of us individually, are creating an experiential reality extremely unique to ourselves. Our own viewpoint of the universe is extremely unique to ourselves. It comes from the time period that we were born and raised in, the information that we have available around us, the way we assimilate it. It has to do with what our parents taught us and how we took what our parents taught us. A list of our primary assumptions about reality. What our thoughts are doing, it's all of that, and each one of us is doing this so uniquely. Now, obviously, there is more to the picture than that, because each one of us, in our little unique universes that we are creating individually for ourselves, where anything is possible for us individually, based on where you are and how you understand who you are and the rules, you can get anywhere you want to go. Now, did I pause it? No. Although it's true that each one of us creates our very own reality, and from our experiential point of view, it's extremely powerful, the individuality of your universe. But of course, your universe clicks in to a larger universe that everybody else is part of too. It's a communal universe. There's a collective universe that we're all contributing to, and we are all integrally a part of that universe. You know, with bigger things happening, we're all on a planet that's spinning around a sun, that's spinning around a galaxy. And actually, it's probably multiple versions of that universe. You know, each one on a different frequency, with the physics around you looking similar, but with the frequencies being different, they're playing out different. You can universe hop. Well, let me not get too far ahead of myself. You've just got to know that your universe is yours to create. But we're all in this together, and we're all creating this collectively. Me, my own little spot on the grid, and you on your spot on the grid, and each one of us is lighting up his own space. Where you are is lighting up because of the way you are looking at the world around you. Your eyes opening, seeing the light around you. Are light. I'm sure of it. I'm sure we are. I'm pretty sure. Now, I haven't done the math, but I just bet that this is what happens. If you add up all of the motion that anyone, I think probably everyone adds up to the same speed of light. But it's happening a little bit different. You know, everyone is in a slightly different location on the grid. But if you add up all of the motion, so you are on a planet that's spinning really fast. You know, it's on its axis, it's spinning round. And that is putting everyone on the surface of the planet is going that 500 and something miles an hour, or whatever it is. I'm not even sure what I should look these up. This would be interesting, and I could have it as a slide. Speeds of whatever. Anyway, you add up the speed of your planet, and then you're going around the sun at a certain speed, and then the sun is going around the galaxy, and then the galaxy is going around a cluster, and the cluster is going around a supercluster, and the supercluster is toroidally spinning, churning around a universe. And the universe, it might have to go farther than that. The universes might be, you know, spinning with one another. Who knows what? But I bet you that if you add up every single one, I bet you that all adds up to the speed of light. And we all happen to be light. We are all light. We certainly are all one. We are all one because the universe, the physical universe, is holographic. And we don't really have to think about the multiverse as in, now, every Planck instant, virtual particles, which are actually particles, wink in and out across the event horizon of the 0-point energy field. They go out of existence, and then they go right back, come right back into existence, sort of in a pulse, a vibrational beat, if you will. And everything does that. All the Plancks, whether they are organized within matter or not, they are these quantum vacuum oscillations that at the quantum level are winking in and out. There's a momentum to them. So if you've got a large field of them that are winking in and out together in this spin, then they tend to wink in and out back into, they are a continuum, it's not random. They don't wink in as one thing and then back in as out and then back in as something completely else, so that it's like slides of pictures that have nothing to do with one another. It's not exactly like that. There is momentum of things that causes a continuity, but a realization of the truth that it all really is completely going away and then completely coming back in, absolutely brand new, fresh, seeming a copy of what it just was, but not, because it's brand new. When you realize that, then you recognize the possibilities. Oh, this Planck field can morph into anything we want. Anything we want. You've just got to understand what is doing it, how your focus and your attention, what effect your focus and your attention is having on the rolling physical manifestation. That's what you got to need to learn. And that is going to come down to your configuration. Who am I? Who am I? How am I designed? How does my design function in the quantum world, in the quantum field, in the bigger set of how this medium that I'm swimming in functions? Who am I? It's a legitimate question. I believe that us not knowing the answer is causing every problem that we've got. And I'm going to tell you right now that my position in some ways in my little world here, in my little show, I'm starting to see that where we are going is actually fairly radically different from where we are. And what that implies is that something's going to have to change. And I know it's going to have to change because what we are doing now is not sustainable. So since it's not sustainable, we can't sustain it. That means it will have to change to something else. And it would be nice if in our understanding of who we are, we could change it to something that is in alignment with reality and with who we really are, so that it can be more sustainable, so that it doesn't have to change so drastically all the time. But the reason that it's changing drastically right now is because we are engaged in a big project on planet Earth right now. I think that project, I'm going to call it the Who Am I Project. That's what I think we are engaged in. And every lesson that we learn from here to whenever will be in the service of answering the question, who am I, until we understand who we are. Then questions can be different. They can be like, ooh, how can we play with this more satisfyingly, more fulfillingly, more to the benefit and service of more beings? How can we play with this? How can we find the most cooperative components to our deepest desires and make them come true on this beautiful canvas that we have been granted by the Almighty? We have the most amazing opportunity. And I'm saying that based on the structure of the universe, not based on exactly physically what I'm seeing everybody do around me. Although the presence of thousands of gurus these days, how many wisdom teachers are there? When you open up your heart and open up your consciousness and realize, this truth of the common project that we are all engaged in. We are all in this together. We are all one. We are a field phenomenon, for crying out loud. You can't really separate my plonks from your plonks. There's a place where they sort of all smear into oneness. And we are all a single canvas. That is true. However, people are not recognizing how, even though we are one canvas, each of us is creating our own separate universe. You have control over your own universe, people. And what you have is the entire huge grid that you can navigate around. And you just have to know that you have an individuation of navigation that you get to control. It's your connection to source. It's your individuated spin. You have ultimate divine control over that. Divine autonomy is what I call this. And through your understanding of this, of your configuration, of how your biotechnology actually works, you will become more physically powerful, safe, and the power that you have is not necessarily going to be at first the power that you think you want, because the power that you have is only going to be power through your alignment with your source. And so since you're coming at it from that direction, your power cannot be destructive. It is impossible for your power to be destructive from that direction, because by definition it wouldn't be in alignment if it was destructive power. It is power to organize beneficently with the rest of the field. That's what your power is. And when you understand how cool the field is, then you will understand how powerful that would be. If you had that power, how powerful would that be? It's through your own alignment. And your power is going to start being to inspire the others around you to their alignment. And that's really what you want. Because if you were looking for peace and prosperity and fun, cooperative, idea sharing and manifestation creation, if that's what you're interested in, then you want the people around you to be in alignment with themselves also. And what's going to start happening is, what you're really doing is you're locking into frequencies that are already in play in humanity around you. There are already people playing with this in big ways and small ways. They're coming to a recognition of who they are and what is possible. And if you would get into alignment with who you really are, you would start becoming the beneficiary of some great ideas that would start tapping into great ideas that other people are having. And the next thing you know, you're cooperative components with really cool people doing really cool things. That's how you do it. But you have to do it from the inside. You can't do it from the outside. You don't do it from the outside. You don't look at how somebody else got their success. By physically observing their steps. Now, if you can observe some other things, where was their head screwed on? What were their emotions at the time of this, that, and the other thing? How were they answering the questions, who am I? And what is this universe? What are the rules of this game? What's the object of the exercise? That's a really huge thing. People have this up in their operating system of their consciousness, and they often spend their entire life without ever asking the question, what's up there? What do I think is the object of this exercise? Am I living a life of he who dies with the most toys wins? And so the object of the exercise is to physically, at whatever cost, pull all of the objects to myself so that I can say, I've got the most toys, I won, because maybe I'm playing the hardiest in the Caribbean right now in my freaking $1 billion yacht. If you're a fan of the show, you'll know that I I have a thing about billion-dollar yachts. I don't know why. It always seems to be one of those things that I keep, because they are amazing. They are amazing. And how do you get to be one of those people who gets to be on one of them frickin' yachts? You know? Traversing the planet, having a good time on one of those yachts. Do you own it? Do you drive it? Are you the captain for one of those billionaire people? Are you the guy who gets to sit in the chair, saying where it goes, or do you get to be the guy who points to the guy and say, you? Anyway, who are we? And how does this work? What is the object of the exercise? I think the first object of our exercise needs to be, we need to know who we are. Because when we don't know who we are, we're like a bull in the china shop. We are causing our own lives to be way, way rougher. And then in the roughness of our lives, our focus is still locked on the horrors that we're creating because we don't know who we are, and we're killing things, and then we look at the destruction that we wreak, and then we're so sad, and then in our sadness we unplug from source. We don't know who we are, and we just keep doing it. We keep doing it. Why do we keep doing it? Okay, so this is my presentation. I have a thesis. My thesis says that all of the woes of humanity come from us not knowing who we are. And they will be fixed as we work with this information, as we work within this information, through the truth of who we are, to get to where we want to go. And where is it we want to go? Well, I think that human beings want to be free. They don't want to be slaves of anybody. They do not want to, this is a Bob Dylan song about you're going to have to serve somebody. It's true. You are going to have to serve somebody, but you can serve the Almighty, the oneness, the allness, the holographic universe, the truth about the physical nature of who we are, and the universal consciousness of which we are a part of. By the way, that's where is God impersonal or is God personal? That's where the question gets answered. It's kind of both. God is deeply personal. God is very conscious. God is very a great wisdom and an actual consciousness. True. And yet God is also the spin of the universe in a very not personal way. But God is also love, because love is the shared point. It's the one point that all points share. It's like there's a point that we all share. And that point is the spin we all came out of. So you have 2 points of spin. One is your source spin, and the other one is your physical, personal, individual spin. And those two, you got to line them up. So I got my first inadequate. I always say this, but I really need to create a better picture, because this picture to me does say what it is I'm trying to illustrate. Although it could be better, and it could be animated, and there's all kinds of ways. You could have 2 tornadoes, one great big one like a hurricane and one little tiny one like a tornado, and you gotta line up the centers of them or something. I'm not sure exactly how this works, but here's the picture. These are your 2 spins. You've got your source spin, and you've got your individuated spin. Now, the source spin includes everything. It includes an understanding and a connection to all things. It is where you are holographic. It's where all the information is everywhere. And I always think I'm going to get it. I always think I'm going to make a run at it and it's going to come out smooth and easy and everybody's going to see it and they're going to go, oh, that's who I am. That's who I am. Well, so think about it this way. These are, this picture that you're looking at in front of you, which is just two camera apertures. I found it on the internet. It's really nothing. One is a wide open aperture and the other one is a tightly focused one, focusing tightly in on something specific, is how I see it. And so because of that, this represents to me your physical mind, which is the small one, and your source mind, which is the big one. Now, the big one is vibrationally in touch with all things because it's the Planck field. It is the reality-making machine. It's the great genie. It's the great, your wish is my command thing. It runs on desire, and it's not just human desire. It's the desire of all things. Everyone has an inner being. A mouse has an inner being. An amoeba has an inner being. But theirs is different than ours. Ours is very, very powerful. Our inner being is extremely powerful because of something somebody did to us some 200,000 years ago, give or take a few centuries. I don't know what the exact timing is, and I'm not sure that science can tell us when the exact timing is, but when did anatomically modern humans appear on planet Earth? Whenever that was, that's when it happened. Because we have within our genetics a bit of a tweak in there. You can see it. You can see it. It's sitting there on human chromosome number 2. We may have others. I'm not a geneticist. I only know about this one. And it has become large in my own mind. I don't know how much anybody else is talking about it because I haven't really been talking about it to anybody else. Except through this forum that I've been doing for the last 6 months. I've been talking to myself. I've been hanging by myself and I've been talking to myself. And because of that, I think my information is probably interesting. I also know that it's probably doesn't have some things tagged into it like it would if I was actually talking to people. I observe things on my own, in my own way. I digest them in my own way. I add them into my own picture in my own way, and then this is what I've come up with. And I know it's interesting because it's my own little thing. If we would all do this, everybody would have an integral picture, a fractally integrated, an integer. What is an integer? It's a whole number. It's a wholeness. It's a wholeness. We are all integral wholes in a universe of infinite mirrors, all mirroring this wholeness, that if you line it up right, if you line up your physical self and your source self, you can reflect the wholeness through you. It's holographic. This is what the meaning of the religions, this is what they're talking about. And also, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, and you're going to realize that this is also the Holy Ghost. This is an explanation of what this Holy Spirit that so many religions talk about, what it really is, and why you can trust it, and how you can trust it, and what you should be careful about. It's not going to, this Holy Spirit is not going to warn you with a warning like, danger! It's not going to give you a negative emotion as a warning. What it's going to do is it's going to capture your attention over this direction with shiny object. It's going to be like, beautiful, come over here. And it's like, just as you start to step on the snake, your inner being catches your attention over to the other direction and says, follow this beautiful butterfly. It doesn't say, warning, snake. It says, butterfly. And then as you turn and follow the butterfly, your foot does not land on the snake. It turns out if you have to depend upon your physical mind, being the one who is in touch with all of the physical dangers that you have to physically think about. You will spend all of your life doing nothing but thinking about dark, terrible, dangerous things. And when you do not understand that the actual currency of this universe is attention, focus, and attention, and the the way you can tell if you're going in the direction of what you want, there's only two directions: the direction of what I want and the opposite direction. There's only those two directions, and it's a toggle switch. And it's all turning on what emotion you are in. Because your emotions are actually being caused by your thoughts. You don't have an emotion until you think a thought about something. Now, you have some knee-jerk, visceral emotions that have no thought to them. Actually, I'm not sure how true that is. The human emotions, the emotions that we think of that human beings experience, that other animals do not. Like the ability to just look at something and just live in the past with it, and well, I'll tell you where our emotions come from. So our human emotions come from this. Now, we have more than one mind that is producing our emotions. So I think the time has come to go to this slide. I love this slide. This is the slide of the neocortex. It's the layer of brain that it's like our overview brain. Our mind that can see a broader perspective, that is not just knee-jerk to the immediate physical surroundings. You know, there is someone coming into my territory, and so I'm getting pissed. Or, you know, somebody is threatening my baby, so I feel this maternal, whatever. That is all well and fine. We did not trade in our lower brains when we put on this layer of overbrain. We still have our reptilian systems that are controlling what it's controlling. We still have our mammalian brain that has certain control over our certain emotions. We have knee-jerk emotions coming from our hormonal side that are tagged from our physical surroundings. We are responding to our physical surroundings with, I like this, don't like that. We are doing that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the system. You are supposed to be observing what's around you and then realizing what you like better and getting an idea of what you don't like so much, and then focus in on what you like and bring that into physical being. That's all part of what the system is. It's nothing wrong with that. So negative emotion is part of this. Anytime you have an experience of, oh, don't like that, that's uncomfortable, it's valid. It's valid. Every time that happens to you, every time you experience a preference, your inner being, your source self, your broader perspective self, your true vibrational continuum, your eternal soul source self, what does it do? Whenever you in your physical life, in your physical body, come across something that makes you realize, oh, I prefer sobriety to drunken hangovers. Or, oh, I prefer to feel comfortable rather than uncomfortable. Oh, you know what? I like peace better than I like war. Oh, do you know what? I like it when everybody eats. That is so much nicer. So I like it when I eat much better than when I'm hungry, right? So now I get my food and I'm like, you know what? I like it better when everybody else eats too, because I have these things inside of me called they're mirror neurons. They're in the human brain. I don't know how many other creatures have such things, if anybody. I'm not sure what the genetics of our mirror neurons are, but our mirror neurons cause us to, they fire when we observe somebody else experiencing something the same way as when we experience it. So I observe your pain and I feel your pain in a way. You know, it's how come you feel like doubling over when you see someone hit in the nuts. You know, you don't exactly feel the pain, but you're like, ah, ah. Anyway, there's all kinds of reasons why we can't get out of each other's business. Why it really matters that human beings need to know who we are. Because you're not knowing who you are is affecting my world. We're all in this together. We are co-creating a great field tapestry. And I'm in charge of my little patch of the quilt. That's true. I am divinely, autonomously in charge of my own little thing. However, it is embedded in a greater field that we're all contributing to. And my energy is affecting your energy, and I'm going to give you an example. This is a couple of my pet ideas. I also have, there's one other thing, and it's big, and I hope that I have at least 15 minutes to talk about it near the end of the show, because I want us to be called to a revolution about this. I want us to really, 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 really know this to be true. We do not have to be burning fossil fuels. And we need to get off of them yesterday, because that is what's causing the carbon footprint that everybody's so worried about. This is what is choking the lungs of the planet. Our not understanding ourselves and not understanding source energy and not understanding the lies that have been told us. But see, I'm not going to focus on the lies, and I'm not going to focus on the conspiracy theories, because there certainly are plenty of conspiracies out there going on. There's people conspiring all over the place for all kinds of reasons. There really is. There is a conspiracy to keep us on fossil fuels, and this has been going on for over a century. But we don't have to push back against the conspirators. We simply have to know who we are. We don't have to push against the people who own the fossil fuels. We simply have to turn in another direction and plug our power, our technologies into something else. Into something else. And there's two ways to do it. One is the big kahuna. It's plugging directly into source energy. It is possible when we understand how this quantum field actually works, and these frequencies that are and the holographic nature and the spinning nature and where all the forces are coming from. The forces are coming from the fact that spin is fundamental. Everything is spinning as it comes across the event horizon of the 0-point energy field. I even have a slide for this. Is it this? No, that's not it. This one illustrates the relationship between all the Plancks in every proton and all of the protons in all of the universe. That's what this slide is for. But it's, which one is it? Is it this one? Yes. As these Planck oscillators come into organization, that organization that they come into is spin. And they spin by themselves, and they conglomerate with one another. That which is like unto itself is drawn, and frequencies spin together. But there's this like mix of all these frequencies spinning everywhere. Anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. sidetracked from what you say. Well, here's a Planck unit. What's a Planck? It's a frequency. It's the smallest one that we can conceive of in this density. If you want a smaller one than the Planck, you got to go down to the sub-Planck. You got to go down a scale. And these scales are so enormous. They go from the Planck to the universe. That's how big the scale is. And if you knew how far you had to go just to get from the Planck to the proton, and a proton is still so small you can't see it, you know, you way can't see it still. And then you get from the proton to, now you get to a molecule or whatever, and now it's, oh, okay, well, you still can't really quite see it. And now you're the little fleck of stuff. And then now you get up to a being like myself, a biological unit on a planet. And then now there's the planetary scale. There's a planet. Then there's the solar scale. And a sun, which is way bigger than a planet, and all the planets going, and then the field of the sun is bigger than even the sun or the planets, is everything. And then that is resting in it's spinning in a galaxy, and anyway, the scales are really big. If you want to know how big a Planck actually is, first of all, there's two ways I'm going to have you imagine this. One is how you get to a Planck. And why do we talk about Plancks? Because that's who you are. You are a field of Plancks. And these Plancks are indistinguishable. There is no separation between your Plancks and the Plancks of the air around you, of the table in front of you, of the chair you're sitting on, of the human being walking next to you, of the mouse in the hole in the wall. There's no separation between these Plancks. They're all touching each other, and they're all one big schmeary thing. We are one phenomenon. We are a field phenomenon, and the energy information, the energy wisdom I have bleeds out into the field around me. Or the chaos that I have bleeds into the field around me. And that's why I want my neighbors to know who they are. And I want us to know how we are killing our planet. But we're killing our planet because we're really cool, powerful beings that don't know who they are. And if we understood who we were, we would understand that we are living in a salad bowl of incredible abundance. I don't know why I just called it a salad bowl. I thought maybe it would conjure a sense of abundance. We live in an abundance creation machine, and it is incredible that we are creating lack with it. It's because we don't know how it works. And so that is what my whole show is in service to, that higher, please quit doing this at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. You think that you're doing it when nobody cares, but I certainly care. Anyway, I'm sorry, something just came up on my computer and it just sort of brought me back to the real world for a second, and I forgot the role I was on. We need to get off fossil fuels. We can do it plugging directly into source energy, but we got to work on that. Our scientists have got to get into laboratories with this math and with the fundamental understanding of how the quantum world relates to the cosmological world. When we understand how the macro and the micro relate to one another, because that's how the scales are. That's how the multiverses fall. They are nested universes, big and small. The scales of it are so we need to do that. But in the meantime, we need to understand that over-unity devices are possible. And the reason that they are possible and why they do not break the rules of physics, which says energy cannot come out of nowhere. It cannot be created out of nothing. And that's true. But there is nowhere where there is nothing. And there is nothing that is separate from everything else. There is no such thing as a closed system. That's why you can have an over unity device, a device that there's a lot of different ways that it can work. You can have a device that tags into a steady state frequency out there in the cosmos. And so, then it dials, you dial it into that frequency, and then it just runs the equipment. And people have invented devices like that. You can adjust a internal combustion engine so that it runs on mostly water with just a little bit of oil to help keep the parts from freezing up, from rusting out and such. It has been done and suppressed and suppressed and suppressed and suppressed. And I'm going to direct you to a movie. Please go see this movie. It's called The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. It is a documentary documenting the over a century history of these wonderful, clever, ingenious devices, ideas from 1,000 different directions. Everything from, solar panels that are way more efficient, or, like I said, ways to tweak an internal combustion engine, or how people have invented completely different internal combustion engines that run on water. One guy did an adjustment to a conventional one. He did a modification, and another guy invented a whole nother engine. Both of them were suppressed. Who knows where the blueprints to the ideas are? These geniuses kept their ideas to themselves because what they envisioned was that they would go to the patent office, they would be granted the patent, and then, they would start generating energy from their idea that would then transform humanity, and they would they would become billionaires and have but that they didn't realize the paradigm that they were actually in. The paradigm that they were actually in was not the one that they thought that it was, where everybody was playing fair and you can trust your government to not be lying to you because, it's actually it's not what you think it is. And you could get really upset about that. And I have gotten really upset about that. When I realized all kinds of things. Back in the 80s, I got all excited when I realized how the rotten core at the heart of the consciousness, the thought processes at the heart of our modern Western medicine and pharmaceutical medicine, and the way that our doctors are trained, and the vivisection that lay behind the vivisection industry. I have no idea what the state of the vivisection industry is at the moment. I hope it is dwindled. I have no idea. It probably is still there. At the time, there was no internet to go, look at all the horrors. The horrors will cause more people to think that things need to change, and maybe things have been changing, but I'm not sure that it's all completely gone away. It used to be that over and over and over and over, car companies would crash monkeys in their cars, and then document how what turned out. And over and over again, they kept noticing, well, the higher the speed, the more damage to the monkey. And it turned out it was so much better to put a crash dummy in there with all the specs registering all of the trauma, instead of, pulling broken monkeys out of the cars, which is what they used to do. There's all kinds of stupid things that we used to do. But in the 80s, the vivisection industry was a $7 billion industry. And I got all worked up and excited about it, and wanted everybody to know the horrors at the root of what we do. Nobody wanted to hear it. I understand now why nobody wanted to hear it, because you cannot operate plugged into source from a negative position. You have got to find your happy thought, or you are no use to anyone. By the way, just on a final thought about what we were talking about, the first suppression that I can point to about the suppression of these great ideas that would have freed us from fossil fuels long, long, long ago would have been Nikola Tesla himself, who was working on both a communication tower and an energy tower that would radiate this, it would pulse out this frequency that people could tag into, they could tune into it. And, free communications, free clean energy for everybody. Well, when he didn't finish it, he was working on it. When J.P. Morgan realized what he was doing, J.P. Morgan was Nikola Tesla's financier. And when he realized what Nikola Tesla was doing, he pulled the plug. And that's why he died relatively obscure and somewhat discredited and stuff, because Morgan did not want people to have free anything. He wanted to monetize. He wanted to capitalize. He wanted to sell people stuff, because that's who he was. He was a capitalist. He was someone who wanted to capitalize on the field around them. And that's kind of a problem now. Capitalism is a bit of a problem. As a mindset, it's a problem. Now you can understand all of the good and the glory and why we have why everything that has brought us to where we are right now. There is absolutely no reason to push against it. You need push against nothing, as a matter of fact. Pushing against things just causes resistance, and the resistance is the problem in the first place. The universe is trying to hand us what we want. We just have to learn how to focus upon what we want. We think we're focusing upon what we want, but what we're doing is we're focusing on the subject, the outer subject, but not in the right frequency. And so it amounts to focusing on the absence of what we want. Focusing upon the reality, which is the fact that we don't have it yet. And we're focused that way, that direction. And that's causing the problem. Because we don't know who we are. And we don't know how powerful we are. We don't know that whatever we are looking at, whatever we are thinking about, how we are feeling, is all an indication of which direction we are facing. Are we facing in the direction of what we want? Or have we gotten ourselves turned 180 degrees in the opposite direction, and we are now looking at what we don't want? So what is it that you don't want? You don't want the continued absence of this thing you want. So which one are you looking at? Are you looking at what you want, or are you looking at what you want not being there? Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you feel the difference? So now it's a task. How do you feel like something's there when you know damn well it's not there? Well, you could know it's there. For one thing, it's vibrational and it is coming into being. You can feel it coming into being, and so you can face it being there even though it's not physically there, because you can feel it becoming. You could face it that way. But all you really need to do is care how you feel and keep yourself in a state of positive feeling emotion. Genuine positive emotional feeling. Now, you may, oops, I did not mean to. Nope, wrong one. It's this one. This is the one I want. The reason you can do that, the reason that works, is because of what your emotions actually are. Your emotions are a relative frequency read between your two minds. I could not mean this more literally than what I am saying. This is literally who you are. You are these two minds. I just put this picture back up. This is your two minds, your source mind on the left, your physical mind on the right. The one on the left, your source mind, that's you connected to everything. That's you in continuum with who you have always been. This is you connected to the rest of the field. This is you understanding the rest of the movie. This is you in flow through eternity. This is who you really are, because it's who you always are. You are always this side of you. The one on the right, this is also you, but it's only you now. It's who you are now. You are always something now and something always. Those are the two aspects of you. You now and you always. Now, the always is also now, but it's always now. The other one is just now, right now. Do you understand? And if you can start identifying with that source self, that's who I really am. Say that to yourself every day, every morning. This thing that I do is like a meditation. For an hour and a half, I talk about this. And the more I put it all together, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I see how that fits. And I see how that fits. It's like we've got, each and every one of us is holding all of the pieces to this cool Lego set. It's not really that either. It's almost like a cryptogram, because part of it needs to come into view, and the other part is you creating. And it's this dance between what's here, what has always been here, who you have always been, what your projects have been. So I think what humanity needs to do, I think that everything that we are about has to do with us organizing and how we organize. We may not know this, but there is a loving, kind presence of well-being and universal consciousness and angelic assistance and just well-being coming out the ears at all times, trying to organize you, trying to organize us as human beings. And what do I mean by organize us? Well, we need to be organized because we are a superorganism. And that organism needs to be organized. We need to be in sync with one another, with our mutual desires, with our mutual well-being. And it turns out that all of that includes the desires and the mutual well-being of all of the rest of the biofield on the planet. It is just not reasonable for us to think that we are going to kill off all the rest of the biofield, and then when everything's gone on planet Earth, we're just going to get into our starships and we're going to head off to Mars and we're going to start fresh there. Or maybe we've already started there, but there's nothing there now. I mean, if we cannot make it here, we can't make it anywhere. We have our abundance set up right here. And if all we can do is kill that abundance, then there's no way we're making it on Mars. I'm sorry. And there's only going to be just a handful of people. Those people in those billion-dollar yachts, they're the ones who are getting in the starships and going to Mars. And then they're going to die there anyway because they haven't gotten it. If we can't figure out who we are and what source energy is and how this freaking field works and how to manifest our desires and what our focus and our attention and all of that, what it really even is, what all of it is, what our emotions are, what our emotional guidance scale tells us, what our negative emotions are telling us, what our positive emotions are telling us, who we really are. If we can't get that here, we ain't getting it on Mars. I'm sorry. We just aren't. So here's our emotional guidance scale, right? This emotional guidance scale is telling us how well the thoughts that our physical mind takes, how well they are blending with the thoughts that our source mind is taking all the time. Your source mind, what's your source mind thinking about? It's thinking about everything that is. No, that's not what it's thinking about. So let's talk about our source mind. I'll tell you who it is. It is that aspect of the universe that makes us holographic. It's the shared cosmic jiggle of the quantum field. It's the holographic interference pattern. It's the point that we all share. It's the spin, the original spin we all come out of. Each one of us in our individuated, holy, divine, autonomous, individuated spin, we are all coming out of the primordial spin. This spin is what's organizing us. It is love. It is gravity. It is the holographic nature. It's all of those things. You've got to put all of the ideas together, and they all start forming a shadow on each other as you're like, oh, look how that's reflecting, that. Oh my gosh, it's a hall of mirrors. I am mirrors. And I can mirror, I can set my mirrors, I can line my mirrors up so that I reflect the wholeness of the universe. But you gotta know who you are. Each and every one of us is an eternal star child, operating your very own starship, which is the seat of your consciousness. You gotta understand how to drive your vehicle. And I call the vehicle that you're driving your human being vehicle. That's your HBV. And your HBV consists of these two minds. I'm pointing at the picture now that's up here. These two apertures, the wide open one that represents source and the contracted one that is peering into your specific physical reality. That's you. These two minds, these are your two spinning discs of attraction. They are spinning vortices of attraction based on what they are focused on and what they are thinking about. Now, the source one is aware of all things and focused on your desires, your pure desires, the frequency of your pure desires. It's focused on the frequency of freedom, the frequency of joy, the frequency of peace, the frequency of love, the frequencies. And you're the one who is translating those frequencies into what you think they are in physical reality. When you get it right, your two minds blend well and you feel good. When you get it wrong, your two minds don't blend very well and you feel negative emotion. That is all your negative emotion is. It is guidance. Are you facing in the direction of where you want to go, or are you 180 degrees facing in the opposite direction? You only have the two positions. You're either going where you want to go, or you're going in the opposite direction of where you want to go. Now, you may be in the course of every day, you might take one step in the direction where you want, and then 2 steps in the direction where you don't want, and then 3 steps in the direction where you want, and then 2 steps in the direction where you don't want. And over time, you don't feel like you're going anywhere, and everything around you just continues to look the same. And you notice things that you like and things that you don't like, and I like this and I don't like this, and I'm mad and I'm happy, and I'm a little bit frustrated, but this is good, oh, but I hate this, and you aren't getting anywhere because you don't understand your equipment. You've got to learn to use your equipment. You've got to build a momentum. You've got to get a momentum going. Now, if you look at these two minds, your source mind already has a momentum going. It is a pure positive momentum. It is focused in the direction of everything you have ever said you wanted. Anytime you were cold, it put out a rocket in the I want to be comfortable. I want my physical body to be comfortable. Whenever you were in discomfort, it shot out a rocket of I hear you. You want to be more comfortable. And through time, as we listen to our inner beings, we as human beings make the world a better place. But we gotta we're not finished. We gotta keep going. We got to keep doing a better and better and better job of working with our infrastructure, making it more efficient, more, I hear IBM say, let's build a smarter world. And I'm like, yes, let's build a smarter world. And then I pull up to intersections where, the light, there's nobody around, and it's not operating on what's happening at the intersection right now. It has no sense of what's going on at the intersection right now. It's just on a timer, and it's 2 minutes this way, and then 2 minutes that way, and then 2 minutes this way, and then 2 minutes that way. And I'm like, oh my God! If you add up all of the time wasted, anyway, it's all working out for us right now. It is all bent on the service of helping us to understand who we are. I believe that there is nothing more important that we need to know at this moment. No problem that we have is going to be solved until we understand who we are. We're just going to be generating more problems. And I'll tell you, I have thoughts, I have ideas like, I have this idea, I call it a couple of things. I believe that it is an energy condition that is created when human beings cross their energy stream. When these two minds are not in alignment with one another, there is a thing that is created. And it is laying in the field. And I can create this, and it can affect you. And I can end up living my whole life not having any idea of this thing that I have created, that I have laid on the ground, that now you pick up and you wield it as a weapon and you destroy something else with it. I call it two things. So you have to know that everything that you know relates to everything that everybody else knows. And so nothing that I ever say is ever going to be an isolated thing. So a lot of times I'm going to say stuff and you're going to go, oh, that sounds familiar. Okay, yeah, I hear that. It's all in how you put it together. Because, and this is a concept I call addition consciousness, as opposed to subtraction consciousness, which subtraction consciousness is all well and fine when you're focusing in some direction in any given moment. But if you presume to be understanding the whole world around you, you better be adding everything in. You can't subtract things out and still be looking at the whole picture. When you think you can do that, the ultimate fallacy there, you can get all the way to the point where you think if you just subtract that group of people that you imagine is the ones causing all the problems, whether they're the Jews and you think that they're causing all the problems, or whether it's the Nazis and you know they're causing all the problems, it doesn't matter. You cannot subtract anybody from this equation because we are all a wholeness, and we are a whole mind, and all the little bits of it are fragmented pieces of the whole coming out because of how others in the whole are acting. It's like when someone goes to the psychiatrist knows that the phenomenon is bigger than the person sitting on his couch, that it has to do with the dynamics of the whole family, that the whole family is a kind of an integer. Well, the family of humanity is a kind of an integer. It is a single morphogenetic field upon this planet, and what I do affects you, and what you do affects me, and that's why we can't get out of each other's business. And I would like to get into everybody's business in a really kind and sweet way, where I can help us all understand who we are, so that each one of us can go about our own business from our own position and really mind our own business, knowing that that really will help everybody else and all of their business. When I am out of alignment, it affects you. And when you are out of alignment, you affect me. But I can't force you into alignment. I can only inspire you to alignment by me finding my own. I find my own alignment in spite of everybody not having theirs, right? And I get in touch with my broader perspective, who knows the bigger projects I've been working on. Democracy and freedom and all of the systems that work, that make humanity work. Communication systems, transportation systems, energy systems, geopolitical power systems. I don't like those. There's distribution systems of the systems that produce goods and services. And then, so human beings all over the place produce these goods and services, foodstuffs and whatnot, and then put it up on the marketplace, and it gets distributed around amongst us. The human supply chain systems, all of that is all systems. And when some of us in charge of creating certain systems create it in ways that are not in alignment with who we really are and what the rest of the field wants or needs, it creates this thing that I call Shiva energy, and what some people it's almost demonic energy. It creates a ripple in the quantum field. There's a problem with it. The reason it does is, say I create a system of food production that produces enough food for about half of humanity, and the rest of humanity has to grub for whatever they can find, you know? And so they're out there, you know, hunting and digging for things, and they're also somewhat capable of growing their own, you know. But say you got this system of food production that is not, it could be better. And as a matter of fact, if they were in alignment with what their inner being knows about everything, they could work with the systems of abundance that are in place in the field already, and enhance we could belch out all kinds of stuff. But so you aren't in alignment, and you have a system that doesn't provide enough for everybody. And so there's a great deal of competition within the field as to who gets the stuff that's coming out. You know, there aren't that many great yachts. You know, there isn't that much caviar. There aren't that many elephant tusks, you know, and so hold on a second. What happens is human beings fall through the cracks. Their needs are not met. They become frightened. They become threatened. They become jealous. They become desperate. Desperate people do terrible, terrible things. So if say I'm over in the Corps of Engineers or I'm in the municipal engineering department and I'm building transportation systems or communication systems, or I'm building some kind of systems, and it's causing hardship for certain people. Well, the reason it would be doing that is because I wasn't in alignment when I did it. If you're truly in alignment with the rest of the field as you co-create with the rest of the field, then you start tagging in the desires and needs of the rest of the group around you. If you're out of alignment, you create systems that don't cover everybody. And those people that aren't covered, they become distressed. And in their distress, they act. It's almost like at the moment I built that system, the energy that I created in the field, because I wasn't connected to my source, that energy is what somebody comes along and picks up and takes it to bloody revolution. You could blame the person who picks up the gun or the brick or the stone and starts rebelling against, whatever oppression they feel. You could blame them. And if you're part of the government, the oppressive government, that's exactly what you're going to do. And you take that person who threw that brick through the glass in their frustration or whatever, and you throw them in jail because they're the culprit. They're the one who did it. So you focus on the culprits of January 6th instead of understanding how the system is not working, people. There are people falling through the cracks right and left, people who cannot feed their babies. I cannot imagine the suffering the distress, the horror, the agony, the tragedy that you would feel. You love your children. You love them. When you cannot feed them, I cannot imagine the desperate measures that you would go to. And if you have been taught in a world where you don't know who you are, you've been taught a mishmash of religious, superstitious nonsense about the shape of the world and cosmology, although it's got enough truth woven in there that it's got you hooked. All the religions have much truth woven into them. They all do. They all have truth in there. I call this concept baby in bathwater. They all have lots and lots of baby mixed in with all the bathwater. They just have unfortunately, the bathwater is still mixed in there. The bathwater, I would consider the negative field, is the bathwater. You gotta understand that you are a pure positive being. And when you take small you are not small. You take small thoughts and you're going to come right up against your source mind taking big thoughts all the time, and that's who you really are. And your little tiny mean, small, disempowering thoughts are not resonating well with the big, empowered, secure, knowing thoughts that your source mind is generating, is connected to all the time. And know that your source mind is you. It's not somebody else. It's not God in the sense that it's other than you. It is where you connect to the divine. It is your tiny little, absolutely enormous sliver of God. You know? It is both teeny tiny, it is yours individually. It is also as big as all the universe. Because it turns out that in physics, it is possible to contain an infinite amount of information can be stored on an infinitely small point. That's what makes it all run. I realize I am past an hour and a half. I don't know that I have covered everything. I'm pretty sure I have not. I do need to do a seminar. I need to do a 9-hour, 10-hour, however long it takes me to get through this. I need to start early one morning, and I need to just keep going. I cannot imagine where I would be by the end of the day. What kind of transformational experience that would be for me. And then I would have this, seminar that I could share with all of you as I show you what I'm talking about. There is nothing but hope, people. Absolutely nothing but hope. Unless you're facing the other direction, in which case there is nothing but despair. Absolutely nothing but failure that direction. And so we just got to keep ourselves facing the right direction. I put this thing up. This is, I am past an hour and a half. I'm going to go a couple more minutes. This represents your brakes and your accelerator to your star machine, your starcraft, your starcraft. I like starcraft. I know I said my name was Amelie Starchild. I think it should be Starcraft. Amelie Starcraft. Although, I sort of like at this point I could ask the audience, who do you think my name should be? Starcraft or Starchild? But in any case, when you, as you dial in to the specific, that's your accelerator. And as you pull back to the general, that's your braking system. So you just have to learn how to go fast when you feel good and go specific when you feel good. Get as specific as you can about as many things as you can when you feel good. And when you feel bad, withdraw. Withdraw your attention as much as possible from everything that you care about. When you don't feel good, don't try to fix things. You'll only mess them up from there. I could talk about this some more. Actually, I could talk quite a bit about this. And people are going to have questions. Well, exactly how do you do that? And sometimes I'll be able to answer directly, and sometimes I'll have to back us up a couple of steps and say, okay, now can you see it from this perspective? Now can you see for yourself the answer to your question? That kind of thing. But I need longer to do it. An hour and a half just is not long enough. So I did imply that, so this neocortex thing that human beings have, I do believe that we have it because we were genetically modified. And this is where you can find the evidence of that. It's in a little article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. It's a little article that some geneticists put out back in 1991. I don't think they did anything with it other than to say, you know what, this is what it is. This is a fused chromosome. Now, how it got fused, they don't say, not in this article. I'm not sure they know. But it looks kind of fishy to me because not only is it a pretty fancy-ass fusion, these two chromosomes were fused telomere to telomere, which is not natural. And then redundancies on both sides of this fusion were clipped away, and it stabilized the fusion. Now, you could imagine somehow how that could have happened accidentally. And if you can imagine that, God bless you, because that's not how I think it happened. I think that the highest probability is that this was done intentionally. Somebody genetically modified us. The interesting thing about this is that neocortex, that overview mind that is the neocortex, 76% of it comes from human chromosome number 2, which is a fused chromosome. And look at what the full abstract of this says. And you can look at this information. You can go find it yourself. It is the 40th article in this journal. The other 39, they aren't all genetics. They're mostly other things, geology. It's where the different disciplines of the Academy of Sciences, where they publish their work. They publish it to other geneticists or whatever, because they're the only ones who can understand the language they're talking anyway, and that have any sense of whether it makes sense, and they can challenge it. You know, other geneticists, if they disagree, they can challenge it using the same kinds of whatever. I don't believe this was ever disproved. This is what this is. Human chromosome number 2 is the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which two ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. They examined the chromosomes on both sides of this fusion, and they're like, oh, you know what? These are not human chromosomes. They were ape. But they've been fused together, and now we've got human chromosome number 2, responsible for 76% of our overview mind, our neocortex, our prefrontal cortex. And I believe that somebody genetically bumped us about 200,000 years ago. Maybe they thought they were doing us a favor. They weren't doing us a favor. They might have thought they were doing themselves a favor, because they created this being that was now smart enough to help them with whatever the crap they wanted to be helped with. But then we happen to be on a planet that's very geologically active. And different things happen, and we kind of got all of our culture and our information and our past and what happened in the story before we got here got lost. And we don't know who we are anymore. And so we've been kind of reinventing ourselves over the last number of thousands of years. We call it history. We're trying to track it so that we can figure out what's going on. Well, we've gotten to the point where all the information's there now. You just have to have consciousnesses. You have to have minds, individual minds that are capable of adding it all up. Oh my goodness. Look at what's going on. Look at who we are. Look at what's possible. Look at how it works. This is what we need to do. We need to know who we are so that we can understand our positive and negative emotions, so we quit going to war with one another, so that we are more peaceful, more kind, more loving, more all of that, so that we can solve our individual problems, so that we can find, each one of us needs to find our calling, our work, our contribution to the greater pattern, to the whole, to the superorganism that we are. And then collectively, we need to understand source energy so that we can get the frick off of fossil fuels, so that we quit killing the planet. 6th mass extinction, garbage island, global warming, all of the problems that plague humanity will be greatly ameliorated when we no longer use fossil fuels. Now, there's going to be a lot of other problems that are going to happen, because wait till we get our transportation systems up off the planet, off the surface of the planet, and you can take your little hovercraft anywhere. And you don't need a road, and you don't care about somebody's no trespassing signs, or, wait till that happens. Wait till we start messing with the world that way. There's going to be all kinds of problems created with that. But we solve them by understanding who we are, getting into alignment with who we really are, and start being a beneficent benefit to the world around us, instead of the bull in the china shop that's just smashing all the glass. I want to get us to the place where we know who we are, and we're having fun in abundance and comfort, and it's gonna be so much fun, people. Way more fun than what I think we're having now. I think there's a lot of people who are not having a lot of fun, and they have no sense that this setup is supposed to be fun. They're supposed to feel good. Really? Really? Then how come have I never felt good in all of my life? Well, it might be because you were taught some ridiculous nonsense at first about your cosmology, and then you don't understand your own equipment, and then you're focusing in all the wrong directions. Anyway, I think I better quit. I'm almost at the hour and 45-minute mark. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll be back tomorrow. I had a good time this morning. This turned out a lot better than it did yesterday. I recorded yesterday, but it was such a disconnected, snarly... anyway, doesn't matter. I had a good time today. That's what matters. And I'll be back tomorrow. That's what matters. And I love you. I do. I really do. There is only one of us here. There is only one of us here. And that which benefits the most of us is what benefits you the most, by the way. That's how come you don't feel happy when you have food, but you're looking at your neighbor who does not. Because we are all in this together. We really are. And yet each one of us is separately and divinely autonomously driving your own separate individuation of this whole thing. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Anyway, until tomorrow, I love you. I wish you well. I bid you peace. And most of all, may the source be with you.